Well, hello everybody, and welcome once again to one of my live YouTube kind of paint-alongs. Let's paint along in a way, because all I'm going to show you today is 4 different ways of painting feathers. So we've got the wing feathers of a robin, okay, first of all. Then basically what we've got is this lovely super fairy wren. We've got a parrot, and we've got the nuthatch for the belly feathers. So I'll start off with the robin first of all. I'm going to start off with a little bit of brown, a little bit of raw umber. Oh, by the way, if you've got any questions you want to ask, fire away. Keep them nice and polite, please. Thank you. Now, when you look at robin's feathers, or any feathers that's kind of clustered together in this way on a wing, you've got to really consider the overall shape. So I've already got the basic washes on all of these ready to go. And all it is wet and wet washes of a variety of browns, normally raw umber, burnt sienna, those sort of colours, with a little bit of bluing mixed up as well. Because when you look at that reference photograph, you can see there. Oh, hang on, no, you can't see it. I'll just put it on the screen for you now. Which is that one there. There you go. Is that better? Now you can see it, look. So this one here, you can see it goes a bit more sort of a browny purple colour, doesn't it? So what I've used for that is a little bit of blue mixed with some alizarin crimson around there to kind of get the basic tones underneath first of all. And now we can start to build over the top. So I'm going to show you some basic ways of doing this. I'm not going to paint the entire wing because it would take too long. But what I'll do, I'll paint this feather here and then all these kind of netted together feathers down there, the way they're sort of lined together there, kind of crossed and folded. Right, let's have a quick look at this one first of all. So using that raw umber, I want to define the overall edge of the feather first of all. Work out where it goes. Like that, and the same on this one as well. That's all I'm doing there. Right, so just down there. And what I want to do with that, I start to fill this in. Now, I've got some colours already mixed up. I need to mix them more for the blue. And that's going to be, as I mentioned, French ultramarine or ultramarine blue, whichever one you've got. I know different manufacturers do call it different names, don't they? I'll pop that one in there. A little bit of blue, and I want to mix that with some alizarin crimson. I want this more of a milky consistency really. I don't want it too thin. Think about the consistencies such as watery, milky, like a cream, and also very creamy. So it depends on, you know, the kind of cream you have in your coffee, doesn't it? Oh, and also a little bit of alizarin crimson, don't we, in there, which is this one here. Okay, get that one mixed up as well. And then I'm just using a very, very old mixing brush at the moment. Now that looks too purple at the moment, doesn't it? But what you have to remember, so I'm going to start adding colours over the top of that, because start to tone it down again. So, start off with that. First of all, load it. Give it a roll as you pull away from that mixing palette, and tap it a couple of times on some kitchen roll. And then we can make a start on the details on this feather. And we've got a vein line coming down there. So isolate that first of all. This is a size 00 brush, by the way. My favourite brush, Winsor & Newton, series 111. I've been using these for years. Not the same brush, I may add, because they do wear away fairly swiftly. Look at the angles you can see within the feathers as well. You see there's quite a few different angles in there. I'm going to very lightly put those in first of all. And then, let's get some burnt sienna and a little bit of raw umber in there. Just drop that into one corner, just to dullen it down. That'll flood in today eventually anyway, but I'm not too worried. Then start to use that one to add further details in, but duller details. It's the first layer. So the thing is, when you start to build up with watercolours, you really got to think about layers all the time. And you start off light, then gradually get darker as you go along. So think about the lights, the mid-tones, and those darkest tones. Okay. I'm just going to start bringing these lines in a little bit more now. I'll start to consider shape, even at this early stage. A little bit more of that. It's not dark enough, we know that. And I'm going to gradually build up each layer. I can use the same sort of well, milky to watery consistency with every single layer. And then every layer that you kind of put on top of one another will gradually get darker all the time. And you can see it's starting to work already. A little bit of a line there, a bit of a line there. This end is really dark, so we can afford to darken that down. And you've got to think about the way that the feather curves over. So this corner here, this edge, should I say, not corner. There's a gentle curve on that corner, on the edge. There's a corner. So I'm going to gradually increase the amount of lines in the same direction again around that one edge. Then what we'll do, once this feather's painted, I'll paint a couple of these down below for you as well before we go on to the next one. It's all to give us some general idea on what to do when you're doing this. Right, what I'm going to do now is get a little bit of our sort of blacky brown we got there. We're going to add some more burnt umber into there as well. It's just this one here, just nearly off camera, I know. That better, can you see that? Yeah, of course you can, of course you can. So a touch more burnt umber. I'm using my half pans here. Winsor & Newton paints, which I always tend to use. The paper, by the way, is by Bockingford. Well, it's not by Bockingford, it's called Bockingford. And it's by St Cuthbert's Mill. So lovely, lovely paper to use. So I would highly recommend it. And I've been using Bockingford, their version of Bockingford, for many, many years now. There's also another one as well, which is the Saunders Waterford. This isn't cotton, but it's lovely paper to work with. But the Saunders Waterford is more of a cotton mixed cotton rag, which is really nice. Touch of lamp black in there, just to darken it slightly. And maybe, just a touch, only a touch of alizarin crimson, just to warm it slightly as well. Look at that. Ooh. Nice. Okay, let's start working with that one now. So this is more to a between milky and creamy consistency. It's a little bit thicker. Load it, take some of that off the brush, then apply over the top again. Look how much darker this is. It's not dark, we've got a dark colour there, which is a black I've mixed up, which I'll need for some of the darker recesses. And because watercolour is transparent, the sort of a purpley grey colour underneath will start to show through. We still want these feathers to look sort of purpley brown. Just by adding these layers on gradually, bit by bit. That's that bit there. Okay, really fine the edge one more time. One more time. And then start to increase that curve you can see on the edge. I'm sorry, I keep singing all the time, I do apologise. No requests, please, thank you very much. Thank you. And that's nearly there, that feather, nearly there. Quite like that, actually. Let's go for darkest colour now, our black, which is lamp black and French ultramarine. You can make your own blacks as well, so it's easy enough to do. And there's a variety of different mixtures you can use for your own black. I do have a video on making blacks on here, so it's worth having a look at that one. Oh, and if you haven't subscribed yet, click on that subscribe button down below. At least that way around, when I do put another video on here for YouTube to watch, you shouldn't miss it, okay? So remember to click on subscribe below while you're watching this for me, please. Pretty please, fingers crossed, thank you. I'm going to darken this edge now. Remember, it's really dark in there. It's not pitch black, you don't need a flashlight. So just darken it a little bit. And then down the side. And that will do for now, for that one feather. And we can tweak it and fine tune it as much as we want to. In fact, what you can do, just out of interest, I'll show you this one very quickly, so I want to get on to one of these down below. I don't want to be here all day. No. Dampen it down. So got the lines showing through, just very lightly dampen it. And add just a touch of colour over the top of that so it blends in like that. And this is sort of blended down there as well. I'll show you how to lift off some paint in a bit as well, so we can get that vein line standing out a little bit more. Doesn't stand out quite enough, does it? As for the rest of the areas, let's go for our brown. Our kind of triple mixture of colours. Watch out for any water runs on your metal ferrule because it will drop onto your painting. Then you have one massive big splodge. After 40 plus years of painting, I still do it, I really do. Okay, very lightly, hardly touching the paper. Define those outlines a little bit more. Work out where they all go. And even though there's such a cluster of feathers here, isn't there? The way they're sort of kind of folded together. You know, I don't try and paint every single one of them. Don't tell anybody though. Keep it a secret for me, please. Thank you. Because I'm not counting them. Not really. And I do like to get it quite close as well normally. So define those main feathers you can see going down all the way around to the edge. And it is an edge this time around. Like that. Now, if you want to see me paint something else live here on YouTube, something quick, something short, a technique, a tip, an idea, how do you do this? How do you use white paint, for example? I've got videos on here for that anyway. You know, how do you paint a dog's eye? I've got that one as well. So think of something that you want me to do for you live within, say, half an hour or so. I don't know. And then I'll see what I can do for you, okay? Right, type it in the comments, let me know. Right, let's have a quick look down there. If you've got any questions while I'm live today as well, please fire away as I mentioned earlier on. At least that way around, I might be able to answer just 1 or 2 questions, maybe 2 or 3, depends who's kind of asking and what you're asking, near to the end of this session as well. That'll do for lining a few of those up. So let's go back to our raw umber a minute. Raw umber. Quite a nice colour that, I do like raw umber. Just going to put this over the top initially. Just down to there. Then for our purple, a bit of brown in there. Just to dull it slightly. Add that in. Just down the bottom so it blends together. Oh, that sounded serious then, didn't it? Blends together. I'll just touch that one in, touch there. It's a bit too bright there, isn't it? Blend it. Let's do the same on the one below as well. And I'll show you how to add some details in between that at the same time, okay? But you've got to let it dry a little bit first. So we'll do the same again, raw umber, all the way down, like that. Bit more brown in there. And then just this edge. Again, it's the first layer. We'll darken that on the next layer. Just into there, like so. In fact, what I want to do, I'm going to go for my, this is raw umber and burnt sienna. Pop a tiny amount of that over the top. Just to change the flavour, just a little bit more. Look at that. Yeah. Oh, I love it, I love it, I love it. Okay. Now then, let that dry, and whilst that's drying, what I'll do, I'll start just put a little bit more detail over the ones at the top there, the one I've just done, this one here. Where, I did say I'll show you how to lift off while that's just drying off a little bit. A few extra details for the feathers. I'm going to show you some feathers on the parrot in a bit as well. I want to get through all of these before I go today. I know it's a tall order, but I'll do what I can for you, okay? Get yourself some kitchen roll, or paper towel, whatever you call it. And then fold that, like so. Uno, dos, tres, cuatro, something like that. Size 00 brush. Wet it, take most of the water off, like so. And then I'll lift off that fine vein. Go on, you can do it. And then lightly dab it. You've got a slightly lighter vein there. If it's too wide, what you can do, just touch it back in the touch. Just push some paint around. Move it back. Move it, like that. Then you've got yourself a vein in there then. As for the rest of this, all you need to do is go for the brown again, the ready brown. Start to add the detail over the top. I'll show you one of these now because time's ticking on here. Should never rush a painting. Different when you're live though. And just very lightly start to add some detail over the top of that. Still a bit too wet. I'm going to just put a few fine details just over the top of that. When you look towards the back of the wing feathers, you can't really see a great deal of detail because it's so dark. I'll fill that one in now. So we can go for our darkest colour, El Blacko. Add that one in. I'm losing the plot today. And just paint that one in. And that, other than some finer details in there once it's dry, a bit of our brown, will do for that next layer. So that's all to do all the way down, kind of work your way down. Then once it's completely bone dry, dry as a bone, then what you need to do is go with your darkest colour, probably even a black and a brown together, mix them I can't get the words out, mix both of them together like that, so it's not too kind of dull. You don't want a dull black. And then you can go over the top of these and darken where it really needs to get darker as well, make them stand out. Think about the contrasting colours, you know, and that works really, really well when that, you know, when you get them just dry, it really does. Okay, something like that should do. Yeah, I like that. So I'll give you some general idea how to work on wing feathers. So what I'm going to do now is work on the superb fairy wren. So if I just switch that one for you on here, which is that one there, I'll start thinking about all the kind of fine lines you can see within the eyes. Now the fairy wren's colours are lovely and bright, aren't they? So I've got to think about the colours I'm going to use for that. Now I have got some general idea from painting one before, and I think what I'm going to do is go for, I'm going to go for phthalo blue, because it's such a bright colour, isn't it? It really is. Put that there for you so you can see it. So phthalo blue. And probably a tiny amount of alizarin crimson, because when you look at that photograph, you can see it's not pure blue, it's nearly blue, but it's just a hint of purple in there. Only a hint, so that's all we need. And that's what the alizarin crimson will do. So get my brush of wash. I'll start to add some basic details in there now and see what we can see in that photograph. Now, when you look underneath the eye, I'm just going to add some details in here. Now, I did paint this eye to video, which I intend to release, or Joe intends to release, hopefully anyway, on YouTube. So if you do want to see that, put a thumbs up for that one, will you? If you want to see how I painted the superb, can't get the words out, fairy wren eye. Again, work your way around. Look at the way they got all these small sections of working their way around. Sort of fans out like that, doesn't it? That's what I'm looking at now. Just adding a few of those in. I'll paint a small section with the shoe, you know, to kind of give some ideas how it kind of goes together today. So you want to define the edges, map it out first of all. And look at the way the feathers sweep along that way. Kind of sweep over towards, probably, think about a clock face, between 8 and 9 o'clock direction. A bit of a like wave in effect. That's what I'm looking for there. Okay. And if I bring this wave down here, like that, and then here, it starts to change direction. Goes more towards 7 o'clock, then 6 o'clock, then between 5 and 6 o'clock. It's at the time already. Around there. Yeah. There you go. And I think that's all I'm going to work on for this area here. So I'll carry on working on this area with you now. So I'll carry on with the same colour. Remember what I said about down here? So every layer that you add will get richer and richer and darker, which it will. So I'm going to go over the top again and define it a tad more, just a little bit more, around there. And then the same will happen with everything else you've already painted. Go over them lines again, darken them, enrich them, make them stand out. We need this pale colour, which is basically phthalo blue, and a little bit of, what did I put said in that one? Yeah, purple lake in that one. As a background wash. And I think that will do there. Now we need to start thinking about defining these shapes a little bit more. And to do that, all we're going to do, go for another blue. Yeah, I might use this one here because there's not a great deal in that one. I'm going to go for French ultramarine and purple lake again, but kind of nearly to a creamy consistency, I think. Actually, not phthalo blue, French ultramarine I'm going to go for this time, that's right. I had to think then. So French ultramarine, thicker, you want to go richer. What you need to try and avoid doing, apart from when you're working on the depths of wings and stuff like that, is going too dark too soon. You know, because sometimes if you go too dark too soon, you will find that it's harder to kind of fix a mistake. Another reason why you want to start off lighter and gradually get darker as you go along. As you normally do, as we know, with watercolours anyway. So I'm just going to get some purple lake off camera and pop that one in as well. Oh, look at that, lovely. That'll do. I'm going to use that one now to start to define it even more. Slightly different mix, different colour, but not everywhere though. I want some of these lovely sort of pale blue lines to show through, so we know exactly where they are. And then you can start to pick out some of the clusters you can see in here. And they are clustered together, aren't they? The way they look on the photograph there. You know, they're quite a nice little cluster going on. Put a few more around there. Yeah, around that one there, I think. And I'm just going to add some tiny ones in completely different direction towards the beak, which is obviously off shot there. You can't see that one, can you? I have painted a fairy wren on my Patreon channel as well. So if you've not been on my Patreon channel, pop along there. There's a link down below as well. If you want to have a go at the free section, I've got some free videos there for you to have a go at, okay? Yeah, go on, give it a go. If you want to learn how to paint wildlife in watercolour, the way I tend to do it, I'll try and give us some general guidance and avoid the mistakes I've made over the many years of painting. Like a fast-track way of learning, it really is. So think about the clusters again. So what I'm going to do, add a touch, only a touch though, and hardly anything of our dark colour. A black colour there into that lovely blue. I'm going to use that for some of the deeper recesses now. Just to define where they are. Not many, just a few. And this will give it an extra depth to it as well. Just a few more down there. And just along here. And that basically is all it says, you know. When you're working with clusters, you work the way down doing the same thing. So you've got to think about the thinner lines and maintain those lighter, thinner lines. So if you want to maintain lighter lines, you water it down a little bit and add a few very pale lines like that in between in places, which then means you've got the lightest colour, the background wash. You've got the mid-tone, well, the lightest detail, should I say, then the mid-tone details, and then with that little bit of black in there, the darkest details. And there's hardly any dark detail in this at all. I know, again, another serious comment going on there. And that's all I did with that. A little bit of phthalo blue, and then you work your way down. Gradually think about the layers all the time and the way they sort of stack on top of one another. A bit like I've just done here. So that's over the top of this area here, isn't it? And these just disappear underneath them sections underneath the eye. Yeah, quite like that one. But that'll give us some ideas how to kind of work with a cluster of feathers. So what we'll do now, we'll start thinking about working on that parrot. Now, these are lovely bright wings, aren't they? They really are. So when you're working on a parrot of this nature, you've got to think about just the green wings I'm going to show you today. Just the green, yeah, not wings, feathers, Paul. The green feathers I'm going to show you today. So work on those first of all. But even though the green is lovely and bright, I've got the bright colours behind the scenes already on that one. That's also a mixture of Hooker's green, what do you think then, and lemon yellow. And also I'm going to use a different green as well, which that's Hooker's green and lemon yellow. It's all dried up. This one is a viridian green and French ultramarine and a touch of lemon yellow in there as well. And lemon yellow, French ultramarine and viridian green and a touch of lamp black. Lampus blackus. Okay, here we go. You ready? Let's make a start. I'm going to go for our brightest colour first of all. I'm going to re-wet that. I don't want it too thick. So I'm going to go with more of a watery consistency to begin with. Not really watery, so a little bit more pigment in there. And I'll work on this big one, shall we? Should we do that one today? Yeah, go on then. Now we've got this lovely vein coming down here using the lightest of touches. You probably notice I barely lowered that brush at all, look. It's a tiny amount of paint on there. Didn't even bother tapping on the kitchen roll first. Just the lightest of touches. And you want to define where the lines go. Too much on the brush now. On those feathers. I keep saying wings. And they sort of swoop down that way. So once again, map it out like I said earlier on. Work out where things go. The direction of things. And they sort of go in that sort of direction, slightly curved. Like that. Okay. Now, the veins in the middle of this is quite dark. It's not a light one like on the robin. So what I want to do with that is really consider, you know, the darkest areas on that feather. So the lightest areas is around here, then gradually gets darker on this side, especially look, down this end down here. But sort of darkened by the use of the darker shade of colour. So I'll just start working with that in a minute. So here's a nearly dry brush, just about anyway. Just going to add some more texture in there, just a touch. You can barely see it, I know, it's there. A little bit. Yeah. Tiny amount more, and then I'll change the colour. Okay, like that. That'll do. Let's go for the next green. And just dampen that one down. Remember, it's all dried up again. And I'm going to still go with a watery consistency at the moment. I think the thing with when you're painting anything like this, you don't want to overwork it. But I also want to make it semi-realistic as well. I'm not a realistic painter. I class myself as being a semi-realistic painter. You know, I'm not hyper-realism or anything like that. Then you can start to add a few more lines over the top, gradually increasing the lines and the texture of that feather all the time. Try and get the lines fairly smooth, you know, looks like a slight curve. That's what I'm doing here. And it's also about viewing that photograph. Too much on there, give it a touch with your finger. So the more you look at that photograph, the more you take on board. Well, I've got a very short-term memory, so because of that, I've got to keep glancing at that reference photograph every few seconds, literally. That's I'm always painting. And I've got the photo on a tablet in front of me. Okay. If you've never used a tablet, same as the iPad. Really useful to have, and have your photographs on there. They can kind of pinch in and zoom out of those photographs on a regular basis then. Depending on, obviously on the size of the photo, depends how big they are. Okay. That's that colour. I'm going to go for the next colour now. Now I'm going to start to think about shape. So it's our darker version of the green. I'm going to make this nice and creamy. But it's got to be paintable, so bear that in mind. If it's too thick, you won't be able to paint a line with it. You know, so make sure it's not overly thick. This is where we're going to get darker now. So I'm going to very lightly, barely touching the paper, 2 hairs in air with my size 00 brush, bring down that fine line and take most of that paint off again. Then start to build up the lines on the feather again. But this time I'm going to concentrate even more down this bottom corner, probably the bottom of this section of the feather, the bottom third maybe, something like that. Bring those lines down. Start to consider the shape. Think about the overall shape of that feather. So, the way I'm going to do that now is by bringing that down there a minute, just underneath that feather there. That's it, that's got it. Gradually increasing the amount of lines I put down this end. Slowly increasing them. By doing so, that will then start to darken this one feather down there. Or the side of the feather, should I say, you know, which it is. just darkening it like that, and already we're starting to get a bit of a curve on that there feather. Why? And a little bit more. Increase it again. Not too dark, I know. Just want a gentle curve like that. Now the other side is more curved, I suppose, towards this edge. And then pull up a few lines all the way along the edge to give more of a sort of curved feel to it. And already we're getting shape to this feather. They can neaten out the edge afterwards, can't you? You'll also find the ends of the feathers are quite fluffy, aren't they? You know, they're very sort of broken up a little bit. Not completely smooth all the way around. So what I would then do with something like this, if I was painting the red feathers underneath, I'd lift off a little bit of paint in places and break up the edge a touch. Okay, just a little bit more there. That's looking more like it, isn't it? That's looking better. Then what you can do after that, I'm going to go for a slightly larger brush. I'm going to go for size, which one? This one, size 4, and that's a no, it's not. It's a Rosemary & Co. Can't get the words out today. XP Series 366. I do like these brushes. They've got a very nice point on them. I'm going to load it. I'll take most of that water off. Then following the lines, direction of the lines, lightly soften it. Don't kind of rub it too hard because you just blend all them details away. You just want to knock them back a touch. That's all you want to do. Very lightly, like this. Got it? Down to there. Keep washing that brush out as well. And remember, take most of that water off. Okay, that's that area done. So I can now add a touch of dark into this one, a bit more. Not too much though, because there's hardly any dark in this feather. I can start to add in just a little bit of a darker line down that vein, down the middle, down to the bottom. And you have to remember this feather is underneath this one here. So because of that, it's going to be darker underneath the edge of this feather. So then it feels like this one is definitely overlapping that one. Got it? And just a touch here and there. And the same will apply with the feathers above as well. Yeah. Now, one thing I use on a regular basis is white paint. This one is watercolour white. And the particular one I use at the moment, I mean, this is one by SAA, Society for All Artists. Have a look on the internet for them. But I think they've changed the property a little bit, and I don't quite, you know, my members have said that the new version is slightly yellow. I don't know if it's true. I don't know. I've never tried it. But this is one I've used. It's an old one I've got. There's a lot of different whites on the market. So have a look around, see what you can find. There's a nice hybrid white as well. You can look. I'll try and remember to put a link down below if I remember about that one. Right, so you can add a little bit of white. I use white paint. I use black paint. I'm a watercolourist. We paint the way that we want to paint. You know that. Ignore what people say. It's your painting at the end of the day. Oh, that rhymed. And a few little highlights here and there. And just a touch of white paint. That's all I'm going to do. Just a bit more down there. And there. Okay. And that gives some ideas how to work on a single feather for parrots. You can go even more detailed than that. Of course you can. I've got limited time today. So if you're doing something like this, take your time with it. Don't rush it. Keep looking at that photograph as I mentioned. Keep going back and forth for the reference photo. You know, I harken about that with my members on Patreon quite a lot, and they say, well, I know. But it's so important. So what I want to do next is work on the belly feathers for this lovely nuthatch, I think. But first of all, I'm just going to show you this while I'm just going to have a quick slurp of pop. It won't be a minute. Today's video lesson for you is how to paint a song thrush in watercolour. And the theme for this one is brown. But I play with these rocks and I wanted to make sure they've got plenty of texture in there. So I'm going to show you some different methods on how to create that texture. Notice how the top part of the beak, or the upper mandible, curves over. And obviously the one underneath just goes underneath a little bit more. But do note there's not just one colour brown. There's a variety of browns in there. And I do want to make sure that these feathers have got plenty of shape within them. Then we can work on those legs and the feet. Only after that, all that, we can make a start on painting these rocks. So that is what we'll be doing this time around. So let's get the brushes wet, shall we? And let's get started. Well, there you go. That's one which is currently this month on Patreon. Yeah, so if you want to paint the songbush this month, then that's already there, ready for you to have a look at. So it's entirely up to you on that one. Now, let's go for the belly feathers for this lovely nuthatch. I do like painting nuthatches. I do like painting them because, well, they are a nice looking bird, aren't they? They really are. But, you know, when you see them as well, they very often hang upside down. Very kind of athletic. I'm going to go, first of all, with the lightest colour again. I might go for that raw umber first. Because this is sort of the colour put on for the basic sort of foundation wash on there. Okay, I'm using a larger brush. The same XP series I mentioned earlier on. This is only a size 2 though, not a size 4. But it's got a really nice tip on it. So use a good brush with a decent tip. You don't always have to use a size 00 like that one there. You know, I like to use that for the finer details, as you know, but it's just handy. You know, when you got something like this, you've got more of a belly on the brush, so it's going to hold much more paint. So less reloading time. Not that it matters, of course, I know. Start to apply the paint to the belly. Looking around, see what you need. You know, working out where things go. I might introduce, you know, a little bit of yellow ochre into that mix. I want to brighten it slightly, but in a slightly different way. So a tiny amount of yellow ochre in there, just to kind of brighten it a little bit more, I think. Yeah, that should do it. So there's a mixture of different colours in there now. Still bright enough though, it can still do the job. Now what you need to do is look at the direction these lines go. Look at the direction the feathers grow, alright? Looks like it's sort of been combed a little bit. But they all sort of swoop down the body in this direction, don't they? And I'm going to overlap these lines slightly as well whilst I'm doing this. Just a little bit more like that. Yeah, just overlapping all the time. Also look at the direction on the lines as well. You can see how lightly I'm doing this, barely touching the paper. And my lines are elongated crosses. Alright, so all I mean by that is my test paper here lot. Instead of having a line, come here. Instead of having a line like that and one parallel to it all the time, looks like it's been two combed. Looks like it's been to the barber's shop, doesn't it? But it's not, of course not. So what you need to do, could do a darker colour for this, couldn't I? Is just that slightly overlapping like that. Okay, so that slightly overlapped. So I think it crisscrosses but stretched out. That's what I'm doing there. And look at the way they sort of swoop down that way. I've got my pencil marks in as a reference guide. So that's what you need to do when you draw something out. Just make some little marks. I wouldn't normally have them as dark as that. I need to show you what it looks like on camera. Just have your little marks on there. Lighten them with a putty eraser first or something like that so you can still see them. But when you paint over the top, they just simply disappear. But it's there to kind of guide you, guide your hand, guide your eyes, and work out where things go all the time. A little bit more around there. It's all about layers in this case. I'm going to do a small section here because of the time and all that. Not that it should matter, I know. But I want to give you some general idea on how to do this. I'll probably put a little bit more, slightly higher to there. Now you'll notice as well on the photograph, it gets lighter there, doesn't it? So much lighter in this area here. What I need is some more space in my palette, so I'm going to get a different palette here a minute. Let's go for that one. Very, very tiny. That'll do. Bit trying to slip material under there. Very handy stuff that, you know. And I'm going to go for a mixture of, let's go for, yeah, a stronger version of yellow ochre and burnt sienna. I think we'll do that. So yellow ochre, and I'm going to put that in there. Didn't know where it's going to go with them. Okay, yellow ochre. More of a, I'd say a milky consistency to a certain degree. and burnt sienna. There's a little bit left in there, as you can see in my half pans. Sometimes I fill the half pans up, you know, with more paint. I very often do that. Or sometimes while I kind of work it until it's completely gone, then I'll replace the half pan. Depends how I feel on the day, you know. If I've got plenty of tubes of a particular colour, I'll very often kind of squeeze them in there. Just to save time, really. Okay, grab some of that colour as well. Then start to use that to go over the top. So you've got a richer blend now of colours. A little bit thicker. Or I should say a little bit thinner, not thicker. Been a long day. Okay, and I'm going to do the same thing over the side here, overlapping the lines all the time. You also got to bear in mind, a bit too much there, as it works its way down towards the front here, it gets darker, doesn't it? It's not really dark, but it's darker. I can add some more of this around there, touch more yellow ochre now. Just to kind of brighten it slightly, the higher it goes. And I have a special brush for doing this as well, by the way. I do. Homemade brush I call the Replicator. I'll show you that, shall I? All it is. Look, I know it looks silly, doesn't it? It's an old brush I've squished together with pair pliers, and the bristles have gone like that. I've got a video on how to make these on here, so you have to do a search for that. Okay, one destined for the bin, by the way, that doesn't always work out. And that's really handy for painting multiple lines in one go. Don't overload it. Like that, the Replicator. And then give it a tap or two, and then you can paint quite a lot of lines. Look at this, look. Really, really quickly. I know. I don't keep saying you should never rush a painting, but it's a good way of sort of speeding up a process if you wanted to. Just going to do this bottom section down here for you. And I want these lines to sort of feather out. No pun intended, but I want it to feather out as I work the way up there, like that. Then obviously you do the same higher up. It gets lighter though, bear in mind, the higher up you go. I'm not going to do that area today. And then what you need to do is then start thinking about the contrasting colours in there. So what I can do, I get some raw brown, which is in there, as you know. I'm going to pop it into here, you know. Let's do some mixing of colours on, basically, in the single mixing palette I've got here. Basically what you find when you look around charity shops and stuff like that, these thrift shop sort of ideas. I know, look around, see if you can find any sort of porcelain or ceramic dishes which come in handy for kind of painting with. They really do. So it's really dark the lower down you go. Thinking about the shape all the time here. That's all I'm doing. Really, really dark. And you find as well, the more you look again at that photograph, you know, you start to see sort of ridges in there, depressions here and there. So there's one there, and there's another one just here, really, right towards the edge. Yeah. Then it gets really dark down towards, as I call, the shorts. It was just above the leg there. I know it's not called the shorts, but I like to call it that. Okay, and just there. Okay, wash that out. Then carry on with this one. So I've got a final tip now. It's okay for the first layer or two, but then you find after a while, yeah, it can get quite messy after a while. It really can. Go for a larger brush just to soften this down a touch. Very lightly, not too much water on there at all. So I'm tapping on some kitchen rolls, you can see, before I go to the painting, and again, like I did before, in the direction the feathers grow. Just to soften it back. So it's not too wet as well. Ease it back. So this gets lighter towards the top there. And then, what I can then do is go for a darker colour again. Start to darken again, even more so now, for the lower part. Thinking about the overall shape of this bird's chest and belly. Just to there, look. And I can even colour in the shorts as well, look, if I wanted to. Using our brown colour there. Just to add them in. Till it gets really dark down there. To try our darkest colour. A bit of black. Mixed with other colours. Just not too dull, you know. then that will go around there as well. That's all they do really, and you gradually build it up bit by bit as you go along. Lessen the amount of detail as you go higher, towards the lighter area. Lessen those contrasting colours as well the higher you go. And by doing so, you get a nice sort of curve to that belly and chest that's down here, look, yeah. It's curving, love with that. I would spend much more time on this, by the way. I like to spend a lot of time working on the details on all the paintings I do for Patreon, for my members on there. And it's really enjoyable to do. So I'll give you some ideas on different ways, different methods. Kind of painting with feathers really well. You know, from sort of wing feathers like this, and you can continue that method all the way down. The sort of clustered idea underneath our lovely super fairy wren's eye. And this one, just doing a single feather. Again, all these areas you can work more on. You can spend more detail or more time on that if you wanted to. It's entirely up to you. So that'll give you some ideas. Until next time around, okay, keep them brushes wet, all right? And I'll see you again on our next live session when we paint something completely different. Don't know what yet. But again, let me know in the comments down below. There's something you would like to see me paint here live on YouTube. Bye.